My name is Kate Fulkerson. I'm the CEO for the Reston Association. One of the reasons why Reston Association is holding this meeting is because this Lake Newport Soccer Field is Reston Association common area. So the Reston Association felt it was important that we be the lead in holding the community meetings. As you can see right up here on the slide, this is the first community input session on this matter. I'm going to go through a little historical context, and I want to tell you that all voices, no matter where you stand on Lake Newport Soccer, are very welcome. I value it. Any input that I get tonight, and my staff and I who are in the back, take very seriously. And we very much value everyone's voice. And if we need a wider input session, we need to give more notice, then that's important to us. I want you to know that. Anyone who's dealt with me in the past, and there are several individuals in the room who have dealt with me over the summer on the St. John's Woods project, know that I am true to my word when I say that. I do value community input, and I want to make sure all members know about what's going on and have a voice. I do have one specific request this evening, and that is respectful discourse with each other. We really need to create harmony in our world today. So it's important that all voices are heard, that we try to talk calmly with each other, and that we hear as much as we can. Nobody here is an enemy. We're all neighbors. I am your neighbor. I live in the North Point District, and I've been a Reston Association member for over 40 years. I pay the assessment just as you do. So it matters to my pocketbook as well in any endeavor that we take up. So I wanted to give you some context of how this issue came to us, where we are in the process. First and foremost, you must know that the Reston Association Board of Directors has not taken a position on this matter yet. Instead, they are most interested in getting as much input as possible from our committees and from the community on this, including our design review board. So, to start us off, as soon as the thing turns on, it goes semi-automatic. Click it here. High-tech, exactly. Technology, always rely on. In July, on the 28th, 2016, last year, the board received a presentation from the Reston Soccer Association regarding proposed improvements to the Lake Newport Soccer Fields. Without objection, the board of directors said, Kate, CEO, in September, at the next regular meeting agenda, we want to see what the question of going to referendum looks like on the proposed capital improvements at Lake Newport Soccer Fields. That's what they directed me to do. We skipped a month because we didn't have enough time to get all of our information together, and other matters took the board's agenda in September. So in the month of October, I did what they asked. I brought to them a schedule of what it would look like to go to referendum. I had a specific request from one of our board directors, Danielle Rosa, back at the July meeting, to see what a referendum schedule would look like with the board election. Interested in saving money if we were going to go to referendum, as opposed to having two separate referendums. She was most interested in trying to do it in one ballot at that time. So, in October, I brought that to our Board Operations Committee first to take a look at what that schedule would be. They gave me some direction to put a little bit more flexibility and time into that referendum schedule. I took that to the Board of Directors. Let's see. I took that to the Board of Directors later in the month of October, presented it to them. They really thought about it. They listened to some of the comments that were coming from some of the committee members that we needed to slow down, that this wasn't something that they were interested in taking up with this board election, which is getting ready to get underway here in March. We already have some candidates. They wanted us to slow down. They said, we're interested. We don't want to lose sight of the proposal. We need more information. Specifically, we want you to do these things, Kate. We want you to talk with the Parks and Rec Committee, the Environmental Advisory Committee, the Fiscal Committee, go to the Design Review Board, and make sure you use the brand new notice process of 21 days with the Design Review Board. That's one of the reasons why some of you got that letter that you did, because we had this 21-day notice requirement. We saw an opportunity to also advertise to get information from the clusters. Originally, Reston Soccer was going to go to you individually and hold its own separate meeting. Again, because this is Reston Association property, my staff and I felt it was important that Reston Association be the lead in this meeting, as did some of our board directors. It is Reston Common Area property. We also knew that we were going to need more space than they were contemplating at Brown's Chapel to hold the meeting, that it would be best to be held here. So,
excuse me, is it 21 days? Because we got the letter just a few days ago.
21 days in advance of the design review board meeting, which is on the 21st. And so you're aware, all the information that is being presented this evening is going to be repeated exactly to the design review board, so that we can get input. Information session from them, I do want to make that very clear. There is no decision being sought by the design review board. We want to get their reaction. I know that they look forward to hearing from you all as well, and you will have an opportunity to provide your input to them at their meeting on the 21st. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any possibility that this could be extended because we haven't had proper time to respond? We haven't had a full 21 days.
21 days from the design review board meeting?
Well, you mailed the letter. I know when you mailed it. We didn't receive it until this past Saturday, and our neighbors who are all affected just got it a couple of days ago, if that. So, is there a way that we could postpone the review board meeting to allow for more community comment, community analysis of what you were proposing? Because clearly you've had a lot of time to cook this and think about it and review it and have committees and comment on it. We have, and we request that.
Thank you. And tonight it's going to be more of an input session for me, more than anything to hear from you. So I'm going to take that comment back. That's again why we're recording this, to understand what the next steps are. So bear with me. I'm going to go through a little bit more, then we're definitely going to open it up for comment. Okay? Thank you. I appreciate it. So the other thing that the board wanted me to do before March, or by March, is to draft a non-binding memorandum of understanding that would form the basis of a long-term 20 years agreement between the association and Reston Soccer regarding the use and maintenance of synthetic fields. I'll come back to that in just a moment, so you know exactly where we are in this process. Also, a proposed referendum question and fact sheet they were interested in. Also, they wanted the fiscal committee, in accordance with the Reston deed, to consider the required 5-year statement of projected maintenance and operating costs for such a facility. Let me tell you where we are in the process on this laundry list right now. I'm still up on one. I haven't touched a referendum question. I haven't created any fact sheet, because it was clear to me and my staff, and Julie Bitzer, who's here from our board of directors, thank you, Julie, for being here with us tonight, said community input is more important than anything else. At the Board Operations Committee meeting that was just held on Monday, I was giving them an update as to where we are. I haven't touched the other two because we're not ready for that yet. So I'm already breaking what the Board of Directors asked me to do, but I think that they'll understand that the most important thing to do is to focus on the community input portion of what we're trying to do to find out as much as we can about this project first. I'm still obligated, and you'll see later, that I have to report back to the Board of Directors on where I am in the directives they gave me on October the 27th. Community input is my recommendation to them now, as well as committee input. That's right, I'm using something that's not functioning. Bear with me a minute. So the context for this proposal. Something that the Board of Directors put in place in 2015 when we were looking at different land use things that were coming our way, things that were going on in the corridor. Also, we were in the process of trying to do a new site plan for the Pony Barn recreation area. We had some lessons learned, people who wanted to participate, members who wanted to participate in the process when we're looking at our recreation areas. So the Board of Directors, with our input, with staff's input, said, let's put a policy in place. It's called Land Use Resolution 2 that outlines a decision matrix when we're considering things for our common areas, our recreation in particular. The most important piece is really community input, committee input. Before we do something, don't surprise the membership with it. Work with them and get their input, even if it means setting up a separate working group to do so. So that's a part of the puzzle piece when we're looking at something of this nature. This kicks into play when that proposal came to us. Next, we have a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. They just put together, for the board's consideration, some short and long-term goals, but there's some specific things that they went through after they went through a George Mason University recreation study. They also held a series of focus groups, working with the local area sports groups and other entities around Fairfax County. One was RA members and facility users have repeatedly and clearly expressed an interest in having more year-round recreational facilities in Reston. It's based on community input through a specific survey that was done in community focus groups. Next is, whenever possible, RA should pursue public-private partnerships to support the improvement and future development of recreation facilities with the smallest possible financial impact to RA members. I shouldn't always be coming with my handout to you. We should try and find other means to fund our recreation facilities if we can, if possible. That was something that many members had said, and the conclusion they came to. More recently, in December, the board of directors presented me with my goals for 2017. They said, these are the things, Kate, we want you to focus in on during this next year. One of those was, in collaboration with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and RA's other strategic partners, the county, Reston Community Center, and other public and private entities, present a 5-year strategic plan describing future amenities and facilities to serve RA and its members. This proposal falls into one of those goals, so I had to take it up. One of the things I wanted to say, and I'm going to take a departure here, is this information will be posted on the association's website, so I'll make sure that you have access to it. And anybody who signs up tonight, we'll send this to you directly as well, so that you have it too. Something else in the context of this proposal is that one of the things that I established with my team and the board of directors is a new way of looking at capital projects when we're maintaining Reston Association's facilities when we do updates to it. We did not have, prior to the middle of last year, a comprehensive way that we were looking at facility upgrades. We weren't scoping properly, we weren't doing the planning and development process, we weren't getting the estimates that we needed. We want to do it better. So we set up a new process, a 5-step process, almost sounds like a self-help piece, but a 5-step process to make sure that there are checkpoints along the way for the board of directors, that the community is informed on what we're doing, that we're getting input, we're posting information. So these are the different steps when we're looking at capital projects, no matter what the project is. This is again a proposal that's come to us. It is not a capital project on the board's list at this time. However, I've been encouraged by my board when I'm looking at this project and taking in the proposal with my staff to think of our stepped process and where everything fits into the mix on this. So, right now, we haven't even hit planning and design. Right now, we're at the yellow arrow. We haven't entered into anything. And what we're doing right now is community input and data research. Just what the board of directors asked for back in October of last year. What I want to do is give an opportunity for you to hear from Reston Soccer, the proposal that they presented to the Reston Association Board of Directors. Again, I want to repeat, Reston Association Board has not taken any position on this yet. They directed me to do quite a few things. You can see that they received the proposal, asked for something, thought about it, said, hold on, let's get more information. But I just want you to remember that no decision has been made. And Julie can correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm off base on this at all. But what I'd like to do is give opportunity for Reston Soccer to make a presentation of what their proposal is or was to the board.
Before they do that, can
Yes,
you
sir.
explain who in the world Reston Soccer Association is?
Sure.
We have no idea who these.
No problem. Actually, you know,
Will you? Okay.
yeah, and it'd be better for them to do it. They are not an entity of the Reston Association.
I
I will
assume
say
that.
that. Okay. Let me,
Good Good evening. I'm going to start my timer because I promised Kate I tend to talk for a living as a trial lawyer in a regular job. So I'm going to try to talk less because I want to hear more of the input. My name is Robert Angazola. I'm the president of Reston Soccer Association. It's a volunteer role. What Reston Soccer is a youth sports organization. We've been serving the Reston community since 1977. We have approximately 1,500 youth soccer players in our program. In addition to that, we have about 80 players that play in an adult league that plays on Tuesday nights at South Lakes High School. Okay, so we're a volunteer organization. I do this as a volunteer. I'm a lawyer in my day job for the federal government, and I do this. It's a free time. It's a labor of love because I've got kids in the program and because I love soccer. Like you, I'm a Reston Association member. I've lived in South Reston since 2008. I've got 3 kids, 2-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. 2 of them play soccer, one's a future soccer player. So that is who we are in a nutshell.
Can I ask, are all the members of Reston Soccer Association Reston residents?
I've got some demographics, and I'm going to try to stay true to my word of 15 minutes. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on this, but our Reston Soccer Association is focused on the things that make team sports good community activities, building confidence, exercise, relationships, stronger academics. I just saw a presentation by a professor during my day job about the need for kids in communities to have what are called passion projects. And what a passion project is something that a kid is really into. And that can be chess, it can be soccer, it can be something else. But it's an important part of developing confident kids that are going to be interested in doing things like going to college. It's actually, if you have a kid that has a hobby, a passion project, you've got more likelihood that they're going to be a productive member of society, attend college, etc. We focus a lot on teaching respect, and it's a family activity. What do we look like? We've got about 1,500 players. We've got about 5 programs. Me and My Ball is a program for 4- and 5-year-olds. Okay, we've got about 120 kids in that program as of last count. House Soccer is a program that we run completely internally in Reston. There's about 600 kids in that program. What you see on the left is the Netherlands team. We have a Reston Soccer logo on the back of the jersey, and then they represent different countries, and a lot of the teams get into it with flags, etc. SFL Soccer is called the Suburban Friendship League, and those are Reston teams. Once they get older, there's not enough kids in the program, so they go and they play against other communities. So our big rival is Herndon. We always like to beat Herndon if we can. But they wear the Reston colors and go compete in other communities as far away as DC. Then we've got Top Soccer, which is a new program that we have run by volunteers from South Lakes High School. It's for handicapped children. And there's about 10 kids in that program. We're trying to grow that. And then Travel Soccer is our most competitive soccer. Those are for kids that aspire to play collegiate. And we've got about 340 kids. Today, we issued a press release jointly with the Washington Spirit, which is the women's professional soccer club locally. And we're really excited because they're going to bring 80 elite soccer players into our program and do a lot of really cool things for the girls in our program. I already got hate mail, I think probably from someone in this room, that I think misconstrued the press release because it says Soccer Academy. They misconstrued it as if we were building a school. There's no school building that we're proposing at all. What Soccer Academy, Development Academy means is that you have groups of teams, several teams practice together on a field under the technical direction of a team of coaches as opposed to individual teams. So we use an academy approach in our existing soccer program To you, if you're not a soccer person, all you have to know is it looks like a soccer practice. It looks like kids kicking a soccer ball around. Now, you know, if you are a soccer person, it's exciting because we're bringing in a group of coaches and players that are, you know, aspiring and have realistic aspirations to play at the Olympic level, national team level, and we're hoping to incorporate them into our program and use it as a tool to recruit more girls. You asked, what is Reston Soccer? Ultimately, it's a group of soccer enthusiasts of all ages that love the beautiful game of soccer. Okay? That's my daughter, future soccer player. I got some questions about demographics. 73% of the players in our program are Restonians, 27% are non-Reston. Most of those non-Reston live in Herndon or Great Falls or Vienna in the surrounding area. Every soccer club aspires to be a soccer club where players from other communities want to come. So in other words, a magnet rather than a soccer program where players leave. Okay? For many, many years, Reston Soccer has been a program that really cannot cater to or offer the level of play that the best players need. And we're changing that, and the partnership with the Washington Spirit is a big part of changing that. But historically, when Reston players get to that level, they tend to leave and go and play at McLean and Loudon Soccer. And what we want is for Restonians that are elite players to be able to work, live, and play in Reston and not have to go elsewhere. Scholarships. We're very focused on underprivileged youth. 21% of the players in our program are on scholarship, and we're able to do that the way that we allocate the dues and also through significant fundraising and partnerships. I'm not going to dwell on our strategic plan. You probably don't care because you care more about what's going to happen in your backyard. Having quality fields and facilities is a major part of our strategic plan. The reason for that is you can't attract and retain great coaches and players and have a quality program if your fields are not high level. And unfortunately, in Reston, we don't have enough quality fields. We play, our club plays on every rectangular field in Reston, including the Lake Newport Soccer Park. So what got us thinking about this as part of our strategic planning process, the Reston Soccer Association strategic planning process, we started thinking about whether we could have a field of dreams as our new home and have it based in Reston. This is one of the Switzerland uniforms, so you can see what that looks like. We wanted to partner with Reston Association. Why? We already partner with Reston Association. For example, at Lake Newport Soccer, we are the historic user of that space. We've been using it since the 70s. We're the primary permit holder there, and it's already a soccer field. As you know, it would be impossible for a group of ours to buy land in Reston if there was land for sale. Fairfax County, we do work a lot with Fairfax County. Fairfax County cannot promise us a certain amount of field time. That's illegal for them to do that. So we can contribute and have contributed. For instance, we contributed $150,000 to the South Lakes High School fields that were constructed. But Fairfax County can't promise us anything in return for that, so it's a donation. And then Lake Newport Soccer Park is a park we know well. We use it all the time. And it offers the most space out of the rectangular fields in the Reston inventory. So what we're hoping to do, and we come to this wanting input from the community, wanting to be mindful and respectful of the neighbors, and it's a wish list. Think of it as a Santa Claus list. It's not demands. We want to hear what you have to think what you think, but this is what we came up with, what we would wish we could do if the community would let us. So currently there's a lower and upper field. The one on the left is commonly referred to as the upper field because it sits higher on the property, and then the one on the left is the up. On my left is the upper, and on my right is the lower. We're proposing turfing with synthetic turf, both fields, so converting them from grass. Our proposal.
Is the lower one the one closer to Giant?
No,
This is the lower. Giant's over here.
Okay, yeah.
Newport
So you might have heard a lot about tire crumb synthetic fields. We are proposing using a plant-derived infill that would be cork-based. So there's been a lot of debate about the toxicity of the tire crumb. That's what all the Fairfax County fields that are synthetic are currently made of. So we would be the first plant-derived infill field in Fairfax County. Our request does include lights, but the lights that we're proposing have glare reduction and light trespass limitation, and they're LED. So it's a lot different than the lights that exist currently in ball fields in Reston. We wish that we could build a modest clubhouse. The key there is having bathrooms. There's no bathrooms currently, and that's especially important for girls in our program to be able to go to the bathroom and not have to walk across the street to Giant. Then we would love to have a sign that said home of Reston Soccer. It could look like other signs in Reston. And then on our current proposal, we've got a tot lot there, but there's other things that we would love to get, other community amenities that we would love to get input on. Why do we want to do this? Player safety. So the current grass fields are not well maintained, and they're really hard to maintain with actual grass growing on them due to the heavy use that they get. Even when we stay off the fields and RA closes the fields, or the county closes the fields, there are players that play on the fields and ignore that. Not from our group, but from what we call a cell phone league. So folks just drive in and see an open field, and that destroys the grass.
Do you have a permit to play on there? Like who's allowed to play on that field? And now, like,
so I think Kate can address that. Technically, it should be RA members and permit holders. We operate under a
I
permit.
live literally on the field, and I can tell you that's not who plays on that field. That field is filled with people drinking and playing until all evening, until it gets dark. So to me, putting lights on that field is an invitation to bring more of that element into that field.
Absolutely.
And I live on that field.
One of the biggest concerns is that I don't have anything against soccer, or definitely the kids, because we've had kids play soccer too. I'm all for it. It's these, what do you call them, these other outside get-together teams. Those are the ones that we have a big problem with.
Most of them are coming from Herndon. Most of them are, I'm sorry, but they don't speak English because all I can hear them screaming over there, drinking,
playing loud music.
We can no longer use our back deck. So to look at this, it's an invitation for more of that because it's not controlled at all.
No.
And my back deck is no further than you to these people. We sat out there one day in the spring and we had to go inside. And now you want it like, I can't even, I thought this was a joke when my husband started talking about it. Now, and you want to put, and where do you want to put the bathroom? Will that be in my backyard too?
The problem is,
I just a respectful request
Yeah.
for two reasons. One, I want to let him finish his presentation.
Yeah, okay.
Two, what I need for recording purposes is we have people come up and use that microphone so that we can capture it and we can hear it. I know we're all hearing it, but I want to make sure that we hear what you're saying. No disrespect to how you feel or anything. Just let him finish, and then we'll definitely open up the community input period, okay?
I promised 15 minutes, and I'm almost done. To answer your question, the proposed, and again, it's proposed, bathroom location would be right here, which is next to the parking lot, so closest to Reston Parkway.
Closer to Giant or closer to?
It's in the middle.
This is
Right
Reston Parkway. This is the parking lot.
Sorry,
You gotta
right
straighten
down
it.
the-
You gotta-
on the-
Sorry.
You can do it in there. It's big enough.
Slides to the-
Right here.
right there. Yeah.
Show them, if you could, where Giant, Reston Parkway,
Sure.
the neighborhoods are.
So M is Reston Parkway. This is Giant.
So that's Lake Newport Road.
L is the
Yeah.
Lake Newport Road.
Did I see what?
So that is the proposal in a nutshell. To answer your question about dealing with the issues that you're dealing with folks coming into the fields. So that's an existing issue. My answer for that, and something we're trying to do work very hard on in South Lakes, where we do have a turf field, is to have programming. So one of the reasons, so the first thing that happened at South Lakes when the school opened that field, we had a soccer festival. The first day the field was available to open, and we got there. Myself and volunteers got there about 6:30 a.m. in the morning to set up tents and everything, and there was graffiti. Okay, horrible incident. And our answer to that as a club has been to try to have programming as much as possible on the field so that it's organized. So we started an adult league comprised mostly of soccer dads and moms, because that adult league happens 8 to 10 at South Lakes, and that is time where it's organized, where our volunteers are out there, and it prevents that kind of element. So that's our proposal. I want to hear your input. I know everybody else
A couple
does.
weeks ago,
And
there was a
everything.
stabbing a couple weeks ago. Yeah, South Lakes was a stabbing a couple weeks
Can
ago.
you go back to the diagram for a second? We had a specific question relating to what was online versus what's on the screen right now. What I saw online was that the entire E, F, and D area would be taken up by a clubhouse, not that triangle of D. So does that mean that you actually changed your design?
I don't know what you.
I saw
I don't
something
know what you
online
had
from your
online.
group that showed a diagram of a clubhouse that spanned all the way from where the trail entrance is, all the way to the edge of the parking lot.
There was
Does
a-
this mean
there was
there's an
a-
update to that?
This is updated.
Okay.
And I don't think what you were seeing was a clubhouse. You might have seen some white space.
Okay.
In an earlier design, we had terracing here,
Okay.
and you might have seen it was an inelegantly patched together PDF, but the white space.
It was a pretty professionally drawn PDF, actually.
But it had, so this is more professional. In any event, there was a white, I know what you're speaking of, there was a white space in the middle. Maybe it was misconstrued as a clubhouse that took up the whole middle.
Okay.
I can,
It was an observation house clubhouse with concession stand and bathrooms, to be specific.
And that's what's in the letter that we received.
Yeah, and it's online, so I'm sure everyone has seen it.
well, we can, if you show it to me, I can explain what it is. But in any event, this is a more refined design, and we're not wedded to any particular design. We want to hear from the community
Just ask
what
for
you might want or not want.
Okay.
Robert, I have a copy of that if you want.
Sure. Yep.
How are you doing?
Is it okay, Robert, if I go ahead and take some questions?
Sure.
On that? Okay, great. Yeah, that was the old.
Yep, so that was the old design. That's what I was referring to as the, to me, that was less professional because they pasted that on there. But this entire white space is not a clubhouse.
So bear with me just a second, because one of the things that I forgot to tell you when we were talking is that we have had an internal session. One of the things that I said I was focused in on before was getting input from our advisory committees, as opposed to having Reston Soccer go to each individual meeting. What we did on January the 11th was hold an internal meeting inviting the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, the Environmental Advisory Committee, the Design Review Board, our Fiscal Committee, our Community Engagement Advisory Committee to come in and hear this. The sole task of that meeting, and they had breakout sessions, and it was on a table as you came in this evening, was to just collect questions. What questions, if you're a member, just, you know, and you get something at home that says this is going to happen, what questions do you have? So that document out there, this will also make sure that this goes online, shows all of the different types of questions that came out of that meeting. In addition, on the back side of it, the Environmental Advisory Committee also had several questions and things that it wanted to be taken up. We have not developed answers for this yet. We're in the process of doing that, and that is one of the things that I'll be reporting back out to the Board of Directors. And you'll see that again when we talk about next steps. But that information is right outside on that table as you go. As you leave, you'll be able to pick that up. The categories that they came under, we broke out into different groups. There were several different themes that came out of each group that were similar. Apportioning field use, long-term maintenance replacement, cost benefits of plant-based synthetic turf, engagement of surrounding community, balancing diverse recreational interests, collaboration with Fairfax County, environmental impact, planning, financial planning, current use and management of RA fields, term of an RSA agreement, and there were some other miscellaneous comments. Those are just the topic headings of the 3 pages of questions collected, just questions that we had. No answers were given that night. And that was the intent of tonight. I got a question earlier about moving a meeting. This is information that we need to collect, and it's really up to Reston Soccer Association and RA to decide what to do next in terms of, do we need to postpone and give a little bit more time to the point that you made earlier. We just need to hear as much information as we can from everyone who's here. Pardon me, because I know that there are a lot of different groups represented here in addition to neighbors. So what I want to do is, if it's okay if I move on to the next piece, I just want to go back to where we were before for community input session, and really this time is to hear from you all. We want to collect comments from you. I'd like to do it one at a time. If you could just say your name and what your address is. None of us in the room are taking notes. That's why we have the camera. Thank goodness for the camera. So that we can capture all of this, you know, in writing later within a week or next week, but it'll be posted. But this is all going to be information that's provided to the Reston Association Board. Try and keep your comments brief. I do have an obligation. I made a promise to one of the residents on Monday night when they were at our Board Operations Committee meeting. Eric McGarrett, say it again for me.
Magdalene.
Thank you. Yes, that I promised to him that I would read his statement into the record. Before I do that, I've got a couple of hands.
Real quick question.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
I understand you to say that when we get up there and give you our name and our address, all of that is going to show up on the website, our faces and everything? I really don't want my address out there for the whole world.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, I know why you need it.
Yes,
I did
yeah.
sign in, my
Yes.
address is out there.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. I understand how you feel about that. So, face on the website is going to be okay? No. Oh boy, how are we going to do that? Okay.
Transcribe.
We can transcribe, but I do need to recorded. There are some people who have requested that the video of this meeting be posted.
Who has requested that?
We get that from all of our residents. I mean, not all of ours. We've had several requests of, will this meeting be up and available on the website? And Julie, any comments that you have toward that?
We typically do capture
electronic
live stream,
video.
provide that to people who can't make the meeting, and for us to be able to go back and make sure that we understood. Sometimes there's differences of, no, I heard this, no, I heard that. So I get the desire to perhaps not be seen, but be heard. I don't know how we do
Now,
that.
I may have an option for you. It's on my last, I'm going to go to my last slide, and then we'll take comments. So maybe this will be helpful to those of you who don't want to do that. So, by Friday, bear with me 1 second. By Friday, we will have a brand new email address for anybody who would like to submit comments in writing. We'll have that up. It's Reston Soccer, or it's soccerproposal@reston.org, so that you can send your comments in that email. That will be received by me and my capital projects team, so we can collect it all together. It is also an opportunity for you to say, hey, I want to be put on a mailing list, so that if anything comes out about this proposal, that you're going to send it directly to me. For those of you who participated in the St. John's Woods project, we created that list, and as we get information, we do push it out to those who have asked to be subscribed to an information list. So for anybody who does not want to be seen on camera, from that perspective, that's an alternative. Or we can try, and I mean, because you are being recorded now, or we can try to capture it without name and address. We want to do what's best in capturing the information. Julie, any other
I
comments?
think we just want to make sure we hear the comments.
Right.
I don't think it's as necessary to hear where they live
Okay.
and their names, but especially for this, it was pretty short notice for a lot of people to know that this was happening. And we're going to have additional community input sessions. So I'm okay with that. I just don't know how we make sure we get them.
Right. Yes,
Get their
ma'am.
voice.
Well, I like very much that you said we're going to have more community input sessions.
Right.
Because what I'm hearing is that the board has said it's critically important to get community input. But yet, in the diagram that you showed when you started your presentation, Kate, you showed that as the first step. And yet, this seems like the last step in your process. In other words, we are now being asked for our input. We are the most affected. That is our neighborhood. That is where we live. That is our sanctuary. That's our savings. That's our family. I don't want to keep going.
No, I understand.
But yet, there has been enormous planning, enormous committee meetings, enormous discussions with players, okay, for months. But those of us whose life savings and whose lives and children live in this community have not once been asked to come to an informal meeting to discuss what you all were thinking of doing with our backyards. Not once. So I request a tabling of your schedule, first of all, okay? That schedule is on a very fast track, and we're not there. We haven't even gotten on the train yet. This is the first time many of us have heard of this. How many of you think that we need more time? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. What I'd like to do is keep the promise that I made on Monday night before I continue to open the floor for other comments, and that is read it to the record Eric's comments that he gave. He could not be here this evening, so I'm going to be respectful to that promise that I made. Good evening. My name is Eric. Help me out again. McElwain. I've lived in Reston for 17 years. I'm the president of Bayfield Station Homeowners Association. Bayfield, along with Concord Green, Arbor Glen, are the three clusters that are immediately adjacent to the Lake Newport Soccer Field. On Saturday, February 4, I was surprised to discover via regular mail that RA Board had scheduled a community meeting for the evening of February the 8th to discuss a major overhaul of the soccer field. We were also surprised to discover that an application for the project will be submitted to the DRB only 3 weeks later. This is when no one in my cluster has seen anything official about the proposal before this past weekend. While Reston Now has been covering the possibility of this project since last summer, this was the first time I had ever personally heard about the project, and certainly was the first time I heard about it officially from the RA board. My neighbors and I do not believe this provides sufficient notice for us to be able to comment intelligently on a project that includes new artificial fields, seating, concession stands, bathrooms, LED lights that, and I am quoting Reston Now here, are similar to ones found in Yankee Stadium. I'd like to respectfully request that the RA board delay Wednesday's community meeting to allow Bayfield Station and other neighboring clusters the time to thoroughly investigate the proposal. Given that Danielle LaRosa, the North Point representative on the board, is scheduled to resign in the coming months, I'd like to see the meeting delayed until after a replacement is elected. After that, all the residents of North Point deserve to know where the candidates stand on that issue before casting a vote. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I look forward to continuing this conversation in a forthright and respectful manner. So that's been read into the record as promised. Now I'd like to open the floor up. Anybody who'd like to stand up and come here, or I can travel with the microphone just so we can capture it, I'd be happy to do that. And if you could just raise a hand. Yes, sir.
My name is Stephen Canna, and I live in Belcastle Court. And I want to thank you for having this meeting. I'm sure a little geographically challenged. So the giant shopping center is where L is, and the Home Depot would be on the other side, and M is Reston Parkway.
Correct.
Okay, so these fields are now used according to the weather conditions and so forth and so on. So if this, so that's helpful to know. I guess the question is, so if this development were to go forward, what would happen to the other soccer field on the Wheelie Avenue dog park side, where it was once proposed to put a new rec center? There was a big hullabaloo about that. What would happen to those fields? And then secondly, of course, is if this proposal does go forward, who's going to pay for it? But I think this is very, very healthy, Kate, and I respect it. I think people have got to understand, if you have these soccer fields, they can't build condos on it. Be thankful. It's like they're better than one since it was I was involved with St. John's with that, which is not over yet. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Evan Gray. I'm from Harbor Glen. You talk about lights. How late do you expect these soccer matches to go in the evening?
For the record, I'm not going to answer any questions tonight because none of this has been decided at all, so I really want to capture comments just like that. It's an important question. So more questions and input more than anything.
Okay, but you have no answer?
No, sir. I'm going to, this gentleman, then I'll come right back. Okay, I'm going to get my exercise tonight.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Roe Buchanan. I'm the president of Harbor Glen, and we are on this map. People talk about the giant. Okay, between the field and giant is Harbor Glen. Okay, we're like this. My home actually is right here. And I've been in that home since the first day Harbor Glen was opened, June 1st, 1987. At that time, there was at most one soccer field, but I think it was all forest. Reston Parkway was called Reston Avenue, and it was 2 lanes. What's happened over the years, first 4-laning Reston Parkway, and then this parking area, both fields, the runoff down to the stream bed that runs behind our homes has been horrendous. So bad that it basically wrecked the stream bed. RA took a look at it, promised to remediate the damage. It may happen before I'm dead, maybe. That was 20 years ago. They did come in because the hill was eroding back toward the fields, They did come in with a front loader and dump several tons of riprap on the slope to, I guess, try to slow or stop the erosion, which has been more or less successful. Not entirely. The stream keeps encroaching, coming back toward our homes. Now, if this green area, green space that RA is supposed to protect, is concreted, I can tell you, I'm not a hydraulic engineer, but you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. I know exactly what will happen to the amount of runoff. It will be horrendous. That will cause further damage to this stream bed. It also, in my understanding, violates the whole regional effort to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. One of the thrusts of that is to minimize the amount of impermeable surface. And this is going to maximize it. I have other concerns. We have a lot of them. Toxic runoff, what it does to aquatic life. The lights, which will be shining. My bedroom window is, about like this. So I'll have a front row seat every night. Okay, so.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Can I stand there?
Sure, absolutely. That prevents me from running around?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Hi, my name is Ramon Pardo. I've lived in Reston for 35 years, 1982. I grew up in Reston, so there's a lot of passion that I have for this city and town. Those fields were actually there, I have to correct you, because I've been playing on those fields since 1982, and they existed since then. And I have great memories of that, because after I left for college, you forget what you take for granted growing up, playing soccer every Sunday, and having something to live for, and have a passion for. And I actually remember every Sunday hearing the Concorde fly over during the games on Sundays, back in the 80s and 70s. I also want to tell you that I'm a member of the board of directors for Reston Soccer. I coach Reston Soccer. My son is now 18 years old, and I started coaching him when he was maybe 5 or 6. My father was also my coach in Reston Soccer, so there's a lot of tradition there. I also live in a very populated area. I live right on Lake Newport Plaza. So to me, I'm trying to understand. And let me back up. I'm a real estate professional as well, so I sell houses. So real estate is a very important thing to me. So when a buyer is looking for a house, there's a number of questions they ask. And when you go to buy a piece of property, you look around and say, and you want to see what the surroundings look like. Well, these soccer fields are there already. We're not trying to make them worse. Some of the comments earlier made it sound like we're building a prison or something. So it's a little shocking to me. So we're actually doing our best to make them better for the community. And to respond to you, one comment earlier, the issue with people going to fields late at night and woods and drinking, that happens near me. And that, changing the fields or leaving them is not going to change that problem. That problem needs to be addressed separately. I think it'll improve the problem because we'll be on the field more often. It'll give other people less chance to do that. This is just my opinion, and I understand all of you out here may not agree with me, but I live on Lake Ann, and I remember, for example, a neighbor of mine who moved in, and he asked me what it was like to live there, and I said, well, it's a great place because you live right on the plaza, but you have to understand that you live where there's people, where there's noise. And he unfortunately didn't like that, but he moved in and he lived there and he had a problem with the noise from the plaza. And to me, I don't understand that. So these fields have been there, and we've been playing soccer on these fields since the 70s, and we just want to make them better. and also to address the permeability. Building these fields is actually going to help with the with drainage and everything, because all of those issues have to be engineered and fixed. So it's actually going to make it better when it rains really hard. The last thing I want to say is I have a lot in my heart for Reston and Reston soccer growing up. And I'll give you an example. When I go to my parents' house on the south side of Reston, and I come outside and I hear the marching band for South Lakes High School, and I see the lights, because they live so close. I see the lights for South Lakes High School, and I hear the marching band, and that's noise and that's light, and it's, I guess, noise pollution and light pollution, but to me, it's nostalgia. It brings back memories of growing up here in Reston and being in South Lakes High School and being part of a community that has so much more than other communities. This community has so much more than other communities, and Reston Soccer is one of those things. I don't know if any of you know that a professional athlete named Grant Hill came out of Reston, and his first sport was soccer. He played on those fields with me and my older brother. And I remember having a conversation with him. He said, if it weren't for soccer, I wouldn't have gotten into basketball, and so on and so on. And that's what we're trying to do with this program, is really just help the next generation of kids. And so all of your issues and concerns with the field and the lights, we've actually already talked about that. The LED lights are very low profile, so anybody that lives near South Lakes High School, you're going to see a lot of light. This is almost the other side of it, where the lights being LED, they just point directly on the fields. I'm not sure what else to say, other than I am pro fields, and I'll take any questions.
Yes, I would like to make a suggestion. We have given Reston Soccer over 20 minutes, and now with your time, over 30 minutes. We have all of these homeowners.
I'm a homeowner as well in Reston.
No, in the area.
I get it.
Okay,
I
so
grew
with
up in
all
it.
due respect, I also grew up in Reston,
Okay.
and my daughter did too. So let's please, as a procedural request, let the homeowners who are here have an opportunity to ask their questions, because we have not had
With
an
all due
opportunity.
respect, I'm a homeowner.
No,
I'm a
excuse
homeowner,
me.
and I just gave my comments.
You're cheerleading for the project.
Do you have a question for me?
Either of you.
Sure, I'll take it.
My name's Kim, and again, we live right there where the little H is, right, you know,
Just so I can get you.
not like the beach where you want to be oceanfront, but we are field front. And I can appreciate that you want to make them better. I probably don't have so much of a problem with the turf being fixed. I think my biggest problem is lights. I don't know any of you wearing a soccer shirt, would you like a giant light in your backyard until 10 o'clock at night?
Every night?
Every night?
Did you see that there was a wish list? So there were
No.
certain, that's
We're
something,
here to
that's
tell you
what we
we
want to
don't
hear
want that
is,
to
Yeah.
if you don't like the lights,
We
that's what
don't
we
want
want.
the lights.
Then just
And
strike
I
it
have
down.
to say that sitting on my deck, I seldom see Reston Soccer there past about 3 o'clock. Again, what I see there is not Reston Soccer.
Right.
So I'm finding it hard to believe that you need lights on a field until 10 o'clock at night when you don't even use it until it gets dark now.
Well, I can address that. We use the better fields that we can get, turf fields. So our number one concern is turf. If we can turf them, you're going to see us all the time. If we have lights.
That's not selling food.
Just play on a soccer field. I mean, that's what Reston's about, is it not? We have swimming pools, tennis courts.
But you know, it's just, to use your example of living at Lake Ann, you moved into Lake Ann where there is noise and light.
Understand you.
That's not what you're asking to move into our neighborhood.
I understand.
That's a completely different thing.
And that's a good point.
You know, you knew what you were getting into,
Right.
so
So
I
the lights are an issue, but there are soccer fields there now.
And
Are there
if you're
not?
saying you're a real estate agent, are you not concerned with I mean, my home is going to be on a soccer field that's noisy with bathrooms and circus stuff going on, and I mean,
bear with me because I'm trying to go to where Anthony popped up. Here, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Amina Samlavi, and I wanted to address your concern when it comes to lights. I work on urban development, training mayors in South America on how to create safer communities. And one of the things we actually suggest is often to create more common spaces for youth, especially when it comes to soccer. When you light up an area, it's less prone to attract criminal activity and less prone to attract drinking, etc. And we recently moved to Reston ourselves. We lived in McLean before. We've been here for about a year. And we moved to Reston precisely because we felt it was more of a community compared to McLean, where people of all ages were taken into consideration. As they mentioned during the presentation, the importance for youth to be able to spend their energy is so incredibly important, both academically. Yeah, maybe, I'm not sure. But what happens now is that a large part of the year, the children can play soccer. We have South Lakes and we have Lake Fairfax. And it's not, the fields are not always open, not always available. And I see my own children, they have to play soccer. How they are basically climbing on the walls. So it's incredibly important for youth to have constructed activities so they can get their energy out. I want to just say one more thing, and that's the fact that there are a lot of scholarships with Reston Soccer. If we want to have a safer community here in Reston, the way to go is to invest in young people. Studies that I'd be happy to share studies on work that I've done in Bogota, Cali, and Medellin on how we've reduced criminality by investing in sports and constructive activities for youth. It's safer for all of us. Some of these kids have parents that work 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only way they have to get outside and meet other people is through sports and through Reston Soccer Association. But I do understand, that's why I wanted to address the light issue. Yeah, I fully understand. It was just in regards to the light, I wanted to mention that it actually, you will see less of that. And there are studies showing.
I have it in my bedroom, is what I'm trying to say.
Where do you see less of what, though?
I had a hand here, and then there's a gentleman in the back, sir.
My name is Doug Fuller. Obviously, I'm in Reston Soccer. I'm also a parent, I'm a coach, and referee. My first house in Reston in the early 90s was on Woodcrest Drive, which was not too far down from there. We were there before Giant was there. I cried a little when the Giant was built because all that green space was lost. We now live in our third house in Reston. I'm glad to hear these types of things. One of the things we want to listen to is how can we make this a net gain for the community. I apologize. I probably run in some of your backyards to fetch soccer balls. I don't like doing that. I feel like I'm violating your property. Maybe that means we need to have a better fence back there. Maybe that means we need to have more trees back there. So we need. The nice thing about the bathroom is that you're not going to have soccer players peeing in your backyard, which is an unfortunate thing because there's no place for them to go after practicing for several hours. The other thing I'd like to say is that what you're saying about the fields being used, I can attest to the fact we can show you documentation that says our fields are used during the soccer season, so late March to say mid-June. Our fields are all booked up. Every field is in use. Lake Newport and Lake Newport is especially used by quite a few teams till dark. So those fields are definitely used. So the people who are on those fields after those hours are not our players because our players don't play soccer in the dark. The last thing I'd like to say is the thing about the lights is one thing we've talked about doing, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, is to test out a light out there, one of the LED lights, to see what it's like. We're not just going to plunk lights down there and say, oh my gosh, these are causing a problem. We would do tests, and we would test the timing of the night. It's not at Lake. I live near South Lakes High School. Those are on until 10 o'clock at night, then they go off. Maybe 10 o'clock. What? No, they're different. These are the old-fashioned lights. These are the non-LED lights, and they're pretty bright. But we'll test it. And we'll try to figure out whether the timing is right. Maybe even if we went to 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that would be a lot more time than we have in the winter. So there are options. There are options for working with the runoff. There are options for working with the permeability. There are lots of different things we can do to make this a net gain for the community. We don't want this to be something negative, but thank you for all the things that you said about community. Like I said, I lived in South Lakes High School. I was there this weekend. with a group of 19-year-old boys, some of whom are here tonight, playing soccer. Next to him was a group of 11-year-old boys playing soccer. Then there was a group of 11-year-old girls playing soccer. Then there were father and son playing lacrosse and playing catch football. These become places where kids can gather and kids can do things in public where they can expend their energy. They can be out there where people can see them. This is a very public field. It's not South Lakes, is a lot more hidden. It's behind the trailers and things like that. I know you're saying that's not a selling point, but the reality is we need more places for teenage boys in particular to be able to get out and to be able to spend their time in a constructive way. So I realize that's not, doesn't answer all your questions, but the reality is we need more spaces like that, and that's what a community is about.
Bear with me, there was a gentleman back here, then I'll come back this direction. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Maybe it's easier so everyone doesn't have to get a crick in their neck. My name is John. Excuse me.
Are you part of Reston Soccer as well?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Actually, my name is John Dam. I'm a Reston resident, and I live in Reston, homeowner. I'm also on the Environmental Advisory Committee, which reports to the Reston Association. So we've been fortunate to have been involved in reporting and reviewing some of these issues from a very early stage. And I can speak to a few of the things that we've done so far. And the gentleman spoke to the runoff issue. That is an issue we identified right away. And one of the comments we made was that certainly the runoff on the stream in other areas are going to be an issue. And we weren't satisfied by mere representation that would be considered as part of the engineering. We thought we were suggested to the board that any engineering to that effect, we would like to see that before it was put to a referendum. So that was one thing that we thought was very important, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Another issue that we identified, and I will say this, Reston Soccer has been forthcoming and they've worked with us, they've responded to our questions. I also appreciate the neighbors' concerns that they haven't been involved in the process from an early stage, and I think it's good that you identified that, and I can appreciate that. I would like to say that from the starting point, they wanted to use, on the synthetic turf, they wanted to use a plant-derived infill, and Robert had mentioned that the tire chrome wasn't even on the table. I personally have been very involved in advocating against tire chrome on synthetic turf fields for a long time, for years now, so I was happy to see that. I think that's a positive. Notwithstanding that, being on the Environmental Advisory Committee, it's my job to still raise issues and ask questions. So even using a plant-derived alternative, when they use that part of the system is to use silica sand. Typically, and silica sand is a carcinogen, and when you've seen these field sprays, comes up when a player plays. So that is an issue we identified, and we have concerns over that. We have questions about where is the plant-derived material, the coconut, coming from. So it's not as necessary, we're asking as many questions, and we want to have a dialogue about it. I would like to make some comments more as a Reston resident now, rather than a member of the Environmental Advisory Committee, and maybe it relates to that as well, too. But regarding the synthetic turf issue, I just want to perhaps suggest we take a pause, and I would like us to think about whether or not grass is really not an alternative. And I don't think, if anyone's played on a well-constructed, well-maintained grass field and had a choice, going to play on that or a carpet, most players, me included, I'm an athlete, lacrosse player, I'm going to choose grass any day, if it's a good grass field, okay? Now, there's a good argument that, we look around Fairfax County, we don't have any good grass fields. And that's also true. But I would suggest that we don't make the comparison and point to those fields and say it can't be done, because I don't think we've really ever tried. There is new grass technologies that can increase the playing hours to maybe not get exactly to the point that synthetic turf will be, but really raises the level a great deal. And furthermore, I just want to point out that we just want to caution about making a comparison, since we haven't really done it before. And the amount of resources, and there have been studies on this, the amount of resources that we're talking about, which is millions of dollars here, if those resources were put into maintaining and constructing and maintaining a really good grass field, the cost would be on par, if not less than that, synthetic turf field, and perhaps as durable. And there are test sites, there's one in Missouri, and there's even some in Maryland where they've done grass fields. So I don't want to sound as if I'm not supportive of the project. I really think that I agree with everything that everyone said about athletics and youth sports. But I would just want to really keep an open mind about using grass. And that we essentially, I would just ask Reston Soccer to do due diligence and just not accept the line that grass can't be done because it's not durable enough. And let's just really be sure of that, because maybe this is Reston. Let's give our kids the best grass field ever if we're going to do this. Let's show that it can be done. And if it just can't, then let's just make sure we know that for sure. So thank you.
Thanks, John. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. And I instead of sticking to the 3-minute rule I've let people go on, we're approaching 8:30. So think about that as you're making your comments. Now, I hate to say this, but she's had her hand up long. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
My name is Jean Crowley, and I live right here. And it's actually quite a bit closer than what that diagram shows, as a matter of fact. I think in light of what Roberto and Ramon had shared, I think it's important to point out that Reston Soccer currently uses the field. And I think that's awesome. That's fine. That's not what we're here to discuss, about children versus this, versus that, versus this. I'd really rather that we not conflate those issues. The lights, in my mind, are the issue. Okay? They extend the play. They extend the noise. The so-called improvements contained in this proposal are not needed in order for Reston Soccer members to enjoy soccer, to promote soccer in any related programs, scholarships, whatever. Maybe I'll want to invest in that in the future. I think that's super. That has nothing to do with what's going on behind my home. And I want that to be very clear to everyone who records this and annotates this. I'm a little confused to hear about the fact that Lake Newport Soccer could be the largest in light of Barron Cameron, that's about a mile away. I think that's quite a bit larger. That was something that was in the Reston Soccer proposal that just took me for a loop. That's a 55-acre parcel of land that is composed partially of soccer fields, so maybe someone can respond to that. It's about a mile away. I have also read concerns, I haven't been able to validate them scientifically in a short time, about chromium and lead associated with the plant-derived infill, so I'm interested in more information about that. I've been a property owner in North Point since 2003. I moved to Reston in 1998. And as I pointed out, I live right next to the field. My deck and my windows overlook the soccer field. I live in Reston because of the values that I believe it stands for. And if I wanted LED lights, then I would have moved to Lake Ann, or next to the Sunoco, or next to the Chevron in Great Falls for that matter. Any place other than where I moved, where Canadian geese woke me up on Christmas morning chirping in the field. So to me, this proposal represents a small gain to a select few, and I don't believe it's consistent with the vision of Reston. And I don't believe Bob Simon would be thrilled about it. I think it represents an affront to the vision of Reston. So I just would like to also say that having the lights would really render my deck, my yard, and my windows useless. I open my windows. I recognize that not everyone does that, but that's one of the reasons why I live in Reston, to have fresh air and not noise late at night. I'm thrilled that they're there when they're there. I'm happy. I'm single. I don't mind that they're there. They walk past my property. They leave trash. I pick it up. I don't care. Okay, this is not about that. I'm just simply talking about the ability for me to enjoy my home because these folks come, play, and they leave. I can't leave. I live there. Okay.
So our home, my home is right next to the soccer field and parking lot. When my wife and I first visited the house a decade ago, when we looked to buy a house in Fairfax County, the beautiful and the natural green fields caught our eyes. The natural green fields and the quietness of the neighborhood are the main reasons we chose to move from Fairfax City to Reston. I am a soccer fan and the father of 2 kids who love to play soccer, but I'm firmly against the Reston Soccer proposal. Number one reason is there is a clear line between public and private properties. This proposal is turning a public recreational property owned by all Reston Association members into private use, i.e. the home of the Reston Soccer. With private clubhouses, signage, benefiting a private organization, this is not a responsible use of public RA property and our RA dues. Number 2 reason, there are a lot of problems introduced by this proposal. Noise, illegal parking, trespassing, increased traffic, and possible accidents. When I first moved to my house a decade ago, my family could not sleep well because of the Reston Parkway noises. We had to change all the windows to double-hang argon glass field windows. It cost us thousands of dollars. I cannot imagine the noise, increased noise introduced by this proposal. One of my friends just recently went through a horrible experience. He lives right across the street for Fairland Recreational Turf Field, which is in Maryland. When the turf field was first proposed, he was really happy. He has kids, he wants to play soccer. But after the turf field was completed, he had nothing but complaints about the constant traffic it brings most of the year. The field has super bright LED lights. There are usually games going on, sometimes late at very night, and the noise bothers them in the community. It's hard to go to sleep when you can hear the cheering and referee wrestling. And by the way, this is a real game going on. Is there any way that anyone who cannot see the LED lights? Except the sun. The third reason is to decrease the property value for our neighborhood homes. And I don't need to go into that, okay? So number 4 reason, it is against the Reston's founding principle and the vision which made Reston the place we love today. Robert Simon set down 7 goals which become blueprint of Reston in March 1961. In his goal number 3, that the importance and the dignity of each individual be the focal point for all planning and take the precedence over large-scale projects. This is exactly what he was talking about. In his goal number 6, the beauty, structural, and the natural beauty is a necessity for good life and should be restored, should be fostered. I want to point out, lastly, that there are already 3 synthetic soccer fields that's in use by Reston Soccer today. One is Limestone Hills, another one's South Lakes High School Stadium, another one's Arrowbrook in Herndon. Why don't you make full use of that instead of moving into our neighborhoods? Thank you.
Good evening. Name's Ben. I live in Bayfield as well. Been in Reston for a while, and want to share the reasons why we moved to Bayfield. One of them were those fields. They're great fields. We love the fields. There aren't many places where you can walk out and throw a baseball, and this is one of them. I'm glad they're there. I don't want them to go away. So, and this isn't about that. We all recognize that. The other reason we moved to Bayfield is because it was a quiet and peaceful and just nice place to be. And when you look around Reston, it's organized around clusters. You go up any major streets, there are no houses on the streets. There are no houses on Reston Parkway. Everything is within clusters. And this is our cluster. We can hear the games. We can hear when there are people there. We have kids who like to, well, they don't like to go to sleep. We like them to go to sleep before games end, and they can hear. So where our house is situated, I don't think the lights would be an issue. I hope they wouldn't be, but the noise would be, and the traffic would be. I love that there's soccer. My kids like soccer. Well, some of my kids like soccer. Other ones we have to make them run. But soccer's great. I'm glad that there's soccer here. I don't like soccer going on late at night. And that's my principal concern.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Chris Kaiser. I'm former president of Bayfield Station. I'm not going to express a lot of opinions, but I do have a few questions. I understood that this was a question gathering process here too. And my questions, thank you, Evan. Lighting, is there going to be a time limit set? How late they're going to run these lights? How late are we going to book these things? Who is going to decide these things? Will RA impose that on the Soccer Association? Or will we be required to go to the Soccer Association and get them to maybe put a 10 o'clock curfew or a 9 o'clock curfew or whatever we think is right? Parking, Pam, thank you. Invasive parking possibility in our cluster. You know, if there's a tournament going on and that little parking lot out there is full, we know where they're going to park. They're going to all park at Bayfield Station. And anybody that comes home after the people have assembled for the tournament are just going to be a little bit out of luck because somebody's car is going to be in their reserve spot or their spare spot, or the spots won't be available. And I've dealt with this kind of draw before, and that's a major inconvenience for those of us who have paid for that reserve spot. That's my garage. And that annoys me when somebody else parks in it and we can't even figure out who it is. And I'm happy to call a record, and that might cause some problems. Is there any restriction on how late these games go and the noise impact? If we're going to build this little thing here with the observation deck and all that, and all lights for the night games, I'd like some assurance that there's going to be a limit to how late this goes. This seems to be, Amy, this seems to be almost a taking of our peace and quiet that we've so come to enjoy. And we've got to communicate better. Having this stuff sprung on us at this late a date is scary. So I appreciate very much learning that this isn't something that's going to be passed on the 23rd of March and we're stuck with. But I'd like to see this rather aggressive schedule tamped back to where we would have a chance to think about it. There's a lot of stuff in here I like. And the idea that the Soccer Association can get better use out of that through some of this, that's good. But the way it's gone down has really grated on some of our nerves in all the clusters around. Thank you.
spoken yet, is that okay?
I just have a quick question that maybe Lynn can answer. The bathrooms, would they be open at all times, and who would monitor those? And who would take care of them?
Good question. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Steve Finley. I live in Bay Field Station, and I did not bring my torches and pitchforks with me tonight, so we can relax a little bit. But I will try to express at least a few of my thoughts. Didn't have a lot of time to think about it because we did learn about it kind of late. But I think that what the residents are really concerned about is the fact that we're all for, I think the soccer is great. Doing things for the kids is great. We're all for that. Kudos to you for the work that you do with the kids and all of that. But for the ability for your organization, for Reston Soccer to be able to use that field and to make changes so that you can program it more, with the investment that's going to be made, you're going to want to get something out of your investment. And so programming it as much as possible is going to be probably something that's going to be important too. And we're concerned about the cost that we have to pay from our neighborhood involuntarily to be able to support the expansion of play there. The lights, you may be able to find lights that focus downward so that you reduce the amount of annoying light at night, but there's going to be a glow. And if we come home and we can't see the stars that we like to be able to see because the lights are on in the field, our quality of life is diminished a little bit. If we have to make a choice between opening our windows to get the breeze at night or keeping them closed because of the noise, our quality of life is diminished a little bit. If we come home and we don't have a parking space, our quality of life is diminished a little bit. If there's extra trash that's out in the back because either it's blown out of the can or whatever, and the place just doesn't look as nice as it used to, our quality of life is diminished a little bit. We don't have a choice. As the woman said, we live there, we can't leave. The Reston Association, if they can make all these improvements, can come, enjoy the fields, great, leave and go home. We can't leave. We're there, and those affect our peace and quiet and our enjoyment of our neighborhood. So I think for me that kind of sums up what my concerns are for service.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands shooting up. Oh, there we go.
I'm Candy Black, and I live over by the Home Depot section of the world, so I'm not your neighbors, but I feel for you. Your lighting situation would be nice with picking a light if you could find a location that has that exact same light so these people could go look at it. We had an issue with the baseball field a while ago, and that was very helpful in finding a particular light. And I know somebody said, I guess South Lake's got to have the same or similar lights, but they're not exact. You want to find exact so they can see, does it actually come down, or will you have a glow? I assume you probably have a glow. Somebody else mentioned some kind of fencing, because I know it goes down the hill to the pathway. Will you be fencing it off? When you're off season, will it be open for anybody to play, run around, fly a kite? I don't know. Basic questions that will affect all of us. I'm not going to play soccer. May want to go fly a kite. And we can't do that in the field by Home Depot anymore. That's gone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick point about word choice on this, and persistently throughout, the terms improvements and enhancements are used. That is precisely the point at issue. And so I would suggest going forward that you adopt more neutral language like changes or alterations, rather than always calling it an enhancement.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So is there anyone that can answer the question about the bathroom? Who would maintain them and how would they be open? Because that's important to me.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on my staff. My subject matter expert, Mike, is like, you're not making me stand up and talk, right? But I am. Here you go.
Bathrooms, can you go through some camera? Sorry. No, yeah.
Who would maintain them and how would they be locked at off times?
And who's going to do that, and who's going to pay for it, and what if Reston Soccer goes under, who will pay for it going forward, et cetera?
Let's just talk about maintenance and how they're cleaned up, okay? Just
What
what
about
I'm going to give you an
closers,
example
transients in the
of.
neighborhood?
Let me give you an example of what we do now.
Sorry, example of what we do now. That's all I can speak to. I have no idea what the future would hold for these bathrooms. But as we do now, we have a separate cleaning crew that comes in every evening, maintains our outdoor bathrooms. It's a pretty good cost. They change all the paper stuff. We've got an exterior bathroom at Lake Newport Tennis. We have some in our community buildings. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of flair to it. We have a cleaning crew that comes in every night, late at night, cleans the bathroom and leaves.
And do they lock them or they lock them?
Yeah, what time do they lock them?
A lot of them have auto locks on their time locks, like some near the pavilions, Lake Camp Pavilion. I think in season it locks at like 11 o'clock. And in this off season, when the water's off and the pavilion is closed, which probably wouldn't be the case with this facility, but we lock the doors down.
Don't they use porta potties now?
We do have porta potties at some of our facilities and locations. We do not have one at Lake Newport Soccer, but we've got some at some of the other soccer fields and definitely all of our pavilions as well.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great. He wants applause. Yes, ma'am.
I have a letter from a father who's a homeowner, and I would like to read it.
Sure, go right ahead. And I do want to be mindful of time. I'd like to get you guys out of here no later than 9. Fair? Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is a homeowner who could not be here, and he wrote a letter which I think is very timely because he himself has played soccer all his life, and he bought in Bayfield Stadium and lives on an M unit that borders on the field, so he's directly affected. He said, it recently came to my attention as a homeowner at Bayfield Station Cluster that Reston Soccer is proposing to upgrade and build a new soccer fields that would include turf fields and LED lighting, concession stands, and a clubhouse. As a homeowner in the Bayfield Station Cluster that borders the soccer field, not 50 yards away, I've welcomed the sound of soccer and other sports during warm summer and fall evenings before dusk. Upon the sun setting, children and families drove away, and fields became a place of quiet solitude. A welcome condition, considering both of my daughter's windows face the soccer fields, one of which is particularly sensitive to light. But the proposal in place will bring many unwelcome conditions. Kids and adults playing deep into the night, many if not most nights of the week, perhaps even year-round. Adult leagues have a penchant for playing in pretty much any condition, radiating light pollution that darts hundreds of feet. The blasting sound of whistles echoing into our homes, concession stands that bring more challenges with trash, litter, safety concerns, dotting the surrounding forest landscape. Quite simply, a general sense of disharmony would be introduced into our lives that we haven't bought into. To add to it, as other Bayfield Station homeowners are wary of, also likely a drop in our property values. No one wants to live next to a noisy soccer field. Noise and light pollution potential are not what brought us to move to Reston. For years, Soren states, I played in several adult rec leagues, and he names them. So I won't go through all the list of them, but there are about 4 listed here. I ran a team for 2 years, the now defunct NBCASL, which used to play their games at World of Grace Fields in Chantilly. These fields had artificial turf, concession stands, and roughly 50-foot lighting that blasted light onto half a mile away. It also happens to be located in a business industrial park district. A good setting for such a lively, noisy endeavor, but not a series of clustered neighborhoods. I can't imagine living within 50 yards of such a place. I am a father of 2 young daughters. I'm firmly opposed to the proposal of Reston Soccer is putting forth. I love soccer, but way too many people in the neighborhood will be impacted negatively by these enhanced soccer fields. I'm not done yet. The residents of Bayfield Cluster can't just move to a different location, but Reston Soccer can certainly find another venue for their plans. Good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I believe actually I received this, so it'll be part of the survey. Yeah, right, thank you. Anyone else? So, thank you all for taking the time to come this evening. As shown here, the top bullet in particular, I'm most interested in you focusing in on that. By Friday, we'll have an email address, electronic web, where you can send additional comments. What I would like you to do, fortunately, I've got the sign-in where you provided information. If it is acceptable to you, I'm going to add you to a email distribution list to keep you up to date on what's going on with the proposal and any developments that come as a result of it. But if you didn't sign in for any reason, please go ahead and send an email to us on Friday. That should be up, but use the soccerproposal@reston.org. Yes, Julie?
Do you mind if I?
No, please do. Julie Bitzer is our South Lakes District Director on the board.
So I know you're concerned about that timeline you see there, but part of this, why there's even a timeline there is, you know, the Reston Soccer came to us last year. We had a meeting in October and we heard some of what they said. But, you know, it's a little hard to even think about where you might go with something like that if you don't have some of the other parameters. So to me, us saying to Kate, go get some more data, go get some more information. Because if I'm looking at something, yeah, I know, I've heard what they want to do, but I don't know whether or not that's what my community wants. You know, yes, soccer's a big part of it, but I just heard John say he's a lacrosse player. I just heard somebody say about going out and being able to throw a ball or fly a kite. We only have limited amount of space. That is our common ground. But we have to figure out what is the right way to use that common ground now and in the next 5 years, 10 years. So this is all about getting that data, getting input. So at one point I thought, well, gee, you know, this is like throwing a firebomb with the Reston Soccer thing. But you know what? It's good because it's getting people talking about what do they want in their community, in their life, what's important to them. So I'm not expecting any formal actions to happen from this. I'm expecting this as part of the thing. We set Kate's goals in 2017 to include looking at what do we want in our facilities and amenities over the next number of years. How do you get it to that process thing? This thing. So at that first meeting, January, when we asked some of the advisory committees to take a look at some of what we saw. Kate said to Mike Sanyo, another board member, and myself, well, what do you need to consider this? I said, I want to see it in the context of everything else we're looking at in our community. You know, because we're talking about getting input, but there's decision points all along here where you can say yes or no as a board member. And what if, you know, it's nice that they're offering to go raise money for it, but I'm looking at it, I'm not so sure that it matters to me who pays for it, but what are the benefits of is there a benefit to just getting lights? Is there a benefit to improving the grass? What would that cost? You know, how do you got to make these trade-offs. So I guess all I wanted to say was, we're going to take time. We're going to think about this. They've come up with something. They're saying, hey, we use this field, we'd like improvements, we'd like to be able to afford more of the members in our community. And there's a lot of soccer players in here. And there's a lot of people who say, hey, soccer's great for developing youth, and I agree with that. I happen to grow up in Pennsylvania. My high school did not have football. Can you believe that? We only had soccer. So, you know, I'm a little bit familiar with soccer. But,
real football.
and the Parks Recreation Advisory Committee, I mean, I'm a liaison to that, and that's one of the things that's on their work plan. In this year, in this, calendar year, to try to gather that data, work with all the sporting groups, find out who's using what, how did they get access? Is anybody not getting time that they should get time? So, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. But I'm just one of you,
So again, thank you this evening. More to come. Very much appreciate your time. Yes, sir.
I just wanted a point of clarification. That website or that email address, if you could put that up again.
Sure.
And is that already up?
It will be. That's an email web link. So we can send information to you, and you can send information to us. Any letters, concerns, and things like that. We will.
So that's not a date that we have to have comments.
No, not at all. No. That's the date that I've got to make sure I've got it up. We will have a page on the website that has information about the proposal that people can go to as well. Just bear with me as my team and I get all of this collected and put
I
up.
hope that a lot of these materials that you presented us will be on your...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They will. Yes, ma'am.
When you say the website, you mean the Reston Association?
Reston Association website. Yes, ma'am.
So I hear that we moved to the DRB on the 21st. Or you're going to get back to us about our request for postponement and more time for discussion among the community.
I need to, right, I need to consult with Reston Soccer, my board, and to do that. It's not a decision I can make tonight, okay?
I hear you, and I would like for you to not include Reston Soccer in your deliberation. We have gotten the first opportunity tonight to ask you what our concerns are and to please give us more time. They have had a lot of time with Reston Association. We have not, and we are members of Reston Association as well, and homeowners.
I understand. Anyone else this evening? Yes, sir.
I want to clarify something about the DRB meeting. That's not a DRB meeting to make a decision. It's an information-only session.
I hear you, and all we're asking for is an opportunity for us to discuss more in depth what the impact of all of this is going to have on us and to ask more questions. We haven't even gathered our 3 communities yet.
We may want to raise money so that we can not have this.
Exactly.
She was just explaining that we can just raise money for other reasons to not use the field for that reason. So we might need time to give that consideration.
We need time. I hope you take that back to the RE board because we will continue to give you that message.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.